Hello again. Thank you for joining me again with these studies in Genesis about what God has revealed about creating the heavens and the earth and everything that's in them, including you and me. We're going to look at day 2 in Genesis chapter 1 of the creation week. And like I had mentioned before, every day follows 4 items that God said, made, called, and saw, and then what he did was good, and that a day is a 24-hour day. It's evening and morning. That's how it puts it. So it starts with the darkness, just like he started at the beginning with darkness, and then he made light, a light source that was not the sun or moon, because they were created later, but some sort of light source. And the earth was apparently spinning around so that the night-day cycle and the time frame were established from the beginning. It's interesting, Isaiah 40:22, it says that God sat above the circle of the earth. So it refers to something round, and that the Lord had actually made it in space. Space was part of what he created. In Job 26:7, it says that the north was over empty space and that the earth was hanging on nothing. So that when you look at the earth as a whole in space, it just looks like it's hanging in nothing. But we know the forces better now that God has made for it to continue to just be where it is in the universe. On day 2, after he had declared that the evening and the morning were the first day, verse 6 says, "Then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day." So there were already waters on the earth. The earth was all covered with water. So then God declared that there would be a firmament. That's from the Latin translation that Jerome made for the Latin Vulgate. And that firmament divided the waters from above, so it was a horizontal division, and the word firmament is not really the best translation for that word. It actually means an expanse or a space, and the word firmament is from that Latin translation. So we get our idea that there was something firm or solid, but that's not what's meant. It's just space. And so he called it heaven. And so other scriptures talk about heavens. So there is a heaven that is the space of the atmosphere, and then a heaven that is the outer space. And then the highest heaven is where God dwells and his throne is. And that's also called a space. So it's kind of interesting how this word explains things pretty well, that God made a space. Now, this space between the waters on the earth and the waters above the space, above the atmosphere, we don't fully understand this because it may have been a water vapor canopy that was crystalline so that sunlight could get through. It may have been some other kind of thing that the water was kept up there. And then at the flood, it was released onto the earth. This will be one of my questions that I ask God. Well, how did that all work? But what we're told is that it was a space between the waters on the earth and the water that was above that atmosphere. And the land wasn't really showing yet. The earth was all covered with water. The land doesn't appear until the next day. So it's best to just understand that God put that space in there. Other verses that talk about space, that expanse, is like I said, that Job 26:7 talks about the earth hanging on nothing, just hanging in space. It also says in Isaiah 40:22 and 45:12, it talks about God stretching out the heavens. So you get this picture that space is something part of the creation process where God stretched out the heavens and placed the different parts in the heavens. And it does describe the way our universe appears today, is that God, in his creation work, he created the earth first, covered with water, then he separated the waters above and below, and he had all this space, and he stretched out the space as he was creating things. That's what these other verses indicate. Jeremiah 10:12 says he stretched out the heavens. A very good description of just the expansion of the universe. And scientists have come up with some discoveries that show that somehow the universe is expanding. And somehow, because it's expanding, it went back to a beginning, and then it expanded rapidly because of the great distances that they measure. Okay, and so this is scientific theories about what the universe is like that can be observed. But just notice how the scriptures give just a basic understanding of how space is included in the created order of the universe. Just lots of space. In fact, what's even more curious is to realize how much space there is within matter, because when we have studied the atom and the different parts of the atom and molecules, because of the energy forces, there's a lot of space even in solid objects. So it's rather incredible, amazing, wonderful to recognize how God created space all over the place. So it's a wonderful thing. And so he called it heaven, and other scriptures tell us that there are three heavens, and that's how that it's described. And so at the beginning in verse 1, when it says God created the heavens and the earth, it's showing that his whole process includes all of the heavens and all that's on the earth. And presumably the stars were created when he made the heavens first, and then made the angels were created during that time that he created the heavens, and then he made the earth, and they watched him make the earth. So it's pretty fascinating to see how that fits together. But that's day 2, that God made the waters and the space. So other translations put expanse, and I think some put space, but that's the meaning of the word that's used there. It's space is the best thing to understand. So that's why I say God created the matter, energy, space, time, universe that we live in. He made the whole thing. Day 3, verses 9 and following. Then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. God saw that it was good. So on day 3, the gathering of the waters into the seas, and then the dry land. Solid ground appears, and he calls it earth. The continents and the mountains rose up so that the matter that was under the waters was moved so that the mountains were pushed up and the continents were pushed up. And how this was done and what their formation was like is not really described. So scientists think that with the study of plate tectonics that maybe there was one continent at one time, and then it was divided into parts, and that's possible, especially with the flood, the nature of the flood science and hydraulics that are involved there, and the movements of the earth. But this is just stating that the dry land appeared. So it rose up and the dry land appears. So then God said on the same day, third day, let the earth bring forth the grass, this is verse 11, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, so the evening and the morning were the third day. So the plants appear. Now they have land to grow on. Presumably they were also growing under the sea. But the different categories that are mentioned here are grass, herb, and trees. Mature, reproducing creation was made. And the grass and the herbs and the trees in their kinds. So he developed kinds. This puts a limit on the variation within the families or species. Today we call species organisms that can mate with each other and produce offspring. And what happens is that the kind was apparently a larger group, but then as time passed, smaller groups that would branch off from those bigger kinds would reproduce with each other, but they would develop in some ways that varied from other groups. So there was some development of that, but it's still within the same kind, so that you have many kinds of cats, but they don't all mate with each other. But that's an example, and we're learning more and more about that. But the evolution asserts that spontaneous generation without a clear cause or mechanism just simply happened. Well, the Bible says that it didn't happen, just happened by chance or by a fortunate congruence of factors, but rather it happened by the all-powerful God speaking, and it became a living thing. So all these things were created, and this describes it, that the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind, just describes the way God made them. He made them as functioning, mature specimens already prepared with making seed to make offspring. That'll be the same thing with the other created things that he makes, the living things. They will be prepared to be reproducing to cover the earth. So day 3 ends, and on that day we get the seas, the land, and the plants. And God said it was all good. So day 4. Okay, continuing on with day 4. That was the end of the 3rd day. So you have plants that are put on the earth. Day 4. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament to give the heavens of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. So the lights are set, and this 4th day they're set in the firmament, or in the space of the heavens, to give light on the earth. So those lights are put up there, and then he describes what they are. So God made 2 great lights, verse 16, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. He set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. Excuse me. So on day 4, he sets lights in the firmament of the heavens, verse 14. So the firmament of the heavens would be the space of the heavens. So you have the space of the atmosphere, and then you have the space of outer space. So outer space is where all these things were placed. So he hangs them there in their places. And he arranges them, or declares that they are going to make their circuits. It's kind of interesting. Psalm 19 talks about the heavens declare the glory of God, and then it uses the sun as an example, and it says when the sun makes its circuit around the earth, and just describes it like a strong man running a race. So the sun is going on a circuit around the earth, and that's the way it appears because the earth is spinning, like we noticed before. And that's how the light will shine during the day, and then they'll go into darkness. So the sun is for the daytime, and then the moon often shines at night, and the stars, we can see them at night. And he sets the stars in their places in the universe. And so it says in verse 17, he set them in the firmament or space of the heavens to give light on the earth. So he set them all up there in the heavens, in the space of the heavens. Describes very well what we can see, and from our perspective of seeing the change of night and then day and then night, and these different lights that show. It just shows God's power and handiwork and wisdom in the way that he made things. So the purpose is for them to shine light over the day, and then even at night, there's some light that's available, and but also that it would measure time. So time is basically a measure of the changes that are happening in the universe. Changes of relationships between the different parts of the universe. And so there's a change that happens, and so we measure it with a time period in which the change occurs. So the lights are made for that, and also for signs in the sky. And they are made for indicating things about the seasons and about the progress of time. So those purposes are being fulfilled even today. Verse 18 continues, and God saw that it was good. That means it was perfect, no sin, nothing wrong with them. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So then day 5, starting at verse 20. Then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. The sea creatures could be the fish, the sea cucumbers, all the different kinds of whales, turtles, all kinds of seahorses and other things. And then the flying creatures. This would be the birds and the insects that all fly around, and that they're able to live the way God made them to be. And there's so much variety. God saw that it was good. So every once in a while I run across another weird critter. I mean, you can think of some weird critters, like, who would ever make an armadillo? I mean, good grief. And then I recently came across a pink armadillo. And I saw a picture of this thing, and this thing is just so odd. So it has armor like an armadillo, but it has a pink color to it, and it's just interesting how God just makes so many things that are so different. And you wonder how they could even exist. And some scientists have studied bumblebees, and they wonder how they can fly, because they're just simply not so aerodynamic as we would expect. But they fly. And the Lord has made many wonderful things, and some are pretty strange. The last thing to notice is that this is when the great sea creatures are made. It's not just whales. These are the reptiles that inhabited the oceans. Great sea creatures, and some of them are described in the book of Job. So some of them survived long enough after the flood that Job could see some. Sea monsters, great sea creatures, and all the living things that move. It's just amazing how much God did. Goes on to say, God saw that it was good in verse 21. Verse 22, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. So then then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, which is each according to his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the cattle, the beasts, the lions, tigers and bears, the cows for hamburger, all kinds of animals on the earth, including the creepers. So next time you get creeped out by spiders, just remember they have a kind of beauty to them. Even reptiles, they have a beauty to them because of the way God made them. And God saw that it was good. All of those things were made. That was on the sixth day. Let's see, verse 26 begins the creation of man, which happened also on the sixth day. So we're going to stop there and pick up on our study the next time, but please note that day by day God spoke and these things happened to create everything that we have in the universe and on the earth, and there's adequate explanation for them. My comment about this personally is that the science also fits this, because the evolutionary theory is based on assuming that we can only measure things about the past based on what we can see and measure today. And the fallacy in that is that we weren't there in the past. But God was, and He's told us what it is. And science does not contradict what the Bible says. Rather, pure science fits the Bible. And what I found very satisfactory is this whole explanation about the expansion of the universe. God said so. And that's why it's so vast and so big, is because He is that vast and that big and that powerful to just expand it all out by the word of His mouth. He's able to create creatures immediately that are able to reproduce and to live on the earth. And He's provided for all of them to live. We're later going to find out that sin messed up a lot of stuff. But don't miss the wonder of it all, that it does fit together scientifically, practically, and especially spiritually, because then we recognize that God is our Creator, and He has given us a Redeemer, and He loves us and cares about us. That's what we ought to get from all this. Thank you for joining me. God bless you.